Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Township and rural entrepreneurs are obtaining the necessary papers to comply with government regulations for running a spaza shop. Once they have a valid trading permit, they can then apply for funding from government institutions, thereby providing access to local markets, including spaza shops. We're joined in studio by the Minister of Small Business Development, Stella Ndabeni. A very good evening to you. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Good evening to you too and our viewers.
It sounds like a great platform. I mean, talking about funding being made available for those who comply with their spaza shops. And we know that compliance has been a major factor for small entrepreneurs in the township. And I also know that you've conducted a lot of on-site visits in terms of the registration of spaza shops and making sure that there is compliance. What were some of your findings?
You're going to be shocked. The first thing is that the queues are dominated by non-South Africans. Where you find South Africans is a very minimal number, to an extent that out of the 59,000 spaza shops that have been registered to date, 93% of those are non-South Africans.
Sure.
But more interesting is when you meet grannies who are here to register on behalf of the foreigners that are residing in their areas, which then demands that you explain how the law works and what are the implications if they are found to be in breach of the law, especially Section 42, which they don't even understand. So that was one of the things, but also the officials that are administering the process were not aware of all the legislations. They just know that you have a passport. If you're a non-South African, you have a visa. They don't know which visa can they use and they must not use, which is something that we quickly attended to say let there be a circular from the Department of Cogta National that is sent to the municipalities to then tell them of the visas that they must consider. Although anyway, they're not the one that approves the visas, because once you come as a non-South African, they refer your documentation to the Department of Home Affairs. So that was one element that I don't think we paid much attention to until we went there. But the other third big challenge was the fact that most municipalities don't have digitized systems for registration, including the permits. So they still do it manually. And now you can imagine if things are done manually. So those three were outstanding for me.
So now you also speak about another tier. There's funding being made available. And your findings so far, I mean, it looks like you have nobody to fund. What is the criteria?
Well, I do have people to fund. As I said, 7%, according to the reports now, are South Africans, are South African-owned spaza shops. Remember, the fund is to assist those that will be found to be non-compliant. We assist them to be compliant. So that's 7%, which is why we're calling upon all South Africans. They must go and register their businesses so that we can assist them, because we're not looking at punishing them. We're looking at ensuring that they provide quality services to their consumers or their clients. And this is why we said, let's look into the kitty and see how best we can go about in terms of assisting them with the different compliance measures that they have. Whether you're talking about the trade permit that they must get, whether you're talking about the building, the quality of the building, because there's building inspection that they must meet in terms of certain requirements, the 30 square meters that at least is the minimum of the space that you must have. All those things that are needed, the shelving in your own space. So there's a list that has been drafted of what is it that a spaza shop that is compliant must have. So we are looking at that support, both in terms of the non-financial support that we're looking at, the business aspect as in registration and the other things, but also the infrastructure support.
I mean, look, it sounds good, Minister, but there's always issues around red tape. Entrepreneurs will say, government is offering money, it looks like I can qualify, but then as soon as you look at the finer paperwork, it gets complicated. How are you navigating around the red tape?
We are trying to make sure that we do away with the red tape in relation to accessing funds by government. But as I said, our primary responsibility now and focus is to make sure that they are compliant. Hence, we are assisting them. Because the red tape is when they are non-compliant. Then they'll say, we can't get this. This is why we said, let us pay for that. Assist them to have all these other things that they are expected to have. So we are eliminating the red tape by availing the funds to say, you do not have this, you do not have a bathroom, you do not have this, and therefore let's bring people to build a bathroom for you, bring people to do whatever they're talking about, except for where the business owner must take a responsibility in terms of registering the business. But even there, we said our accountants will work with the SABC and assist them.
Over this next week, Minister, we'll be speaking to various entrepreneurs who are based in the townships who do more, Minister, than run a car wash or a hair salon. I mean, entrepreneurs with great ideas, great products, but barriers to entry in the local market. Some of the entrepreneurs are saying that I have a product, but I can't even get this product in my local spaza shop on the shelf because of so many other factors. What would you say to entrepreneurs like that and the opportunities that can be created in the spaza shop industry chain for South Africans to find it attractive enough and not feel like the foreign national who sells a cool drink for 12 Rand and mine is 20 Rand, therefore I have no market?
Actually, one of the things that we've agreed on together with the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition was that from whoever that will be sourcing the products from, they've got to make sure that they include the locally produced products. We are working with both Proudly SA and SA Productivity. All those, we want the products that are already approved because, for example, on our side, through CEDA, one of our entities that we are merging now, I'm sure you've heard that we're going to have one agency. We've been assisting with small businesses. DTIC has been doing it. We've assisted them with SABS. Most of them are trading right now, whether they trade online or they're already in the shops. It's because of the business development support that we provided. So even now we said when we source sports, the only way for our local entrepreneurs to have access to market is when their products are introduced in the market. Now, we can put them in the shops, but if there's no marketing of those, people will not know that they must get them, which is why we also have the program that we have tomorrow, the breakfast that we have, to say those that have won on our competition, on our pitching competition in the hours, let them be marketed and their products, they must be marketed. And this is another aspect that we're going to be adding on the business development support that we provide through the new agency.
Why branch out with this new agency? I mean, I thought you already provided funds.
We provide funds, but it has been scattered interventions. One has to go to CEDA for non-financial, CFA financial, and then go to the CBDA Fair Cooperative Bank, which was under National Treasury. We then said the mandate that we are given talks to providing all that support as a department. But entrepreneurs have been complaining that we've got to take so many taxis in order to access the services. Can't you create a one-stop shop center for us? And this is the response to that, to say, now we're able to say, we've assisted with whatever that you needed to develop your product. On prototype, it is where it is now. Now we know that you are ready for funding. So we link all of those to hold you by hand to make sure that you reach the stage that you need to reach within our own category, which is a funding cap of 15 million rands as things stand. Then when you grow, of course, we then deposit you to the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. Okay,
but we've reached the end of the year now, Minister. Surely if somebody has to make a phone call to say, do I qualify? It's either funds are running short or there are no funds or the funds have been depleted for the year. So when is this agency accessible for entrepreneurs who are watching right now? In fact, some of them are coming right where you're seated immediately after our interview.
The funds are ongoing, as I said. We had a budget vote, we allocated the money that we allocated, so the funds are ongoing. The new agency is just bringing those together into one. This is why we will be launching again a transformational fund together with the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition to respond to the funding gap that people are complaining about. The funding that NEF provides is not sufficient. The funding that CFA provides is not sufficient.
It's inaccessible.
There are people
in terms of the red tape.
The reason we're running out of budget, the reason we run out of budget is because there are people who are accessing it.
Okay.
So that's why we're saying there's a gap. Because there are those, and as I said, what we have not been focusing on is the business development support. Because for you to be able to access funding, there's certain things that you must have. This is what you are saying, let's address, let's pay for those so that our entrepreneurs can be able to access funding. Not necessarily only on our DFIs, but they can also access from other people. So that's the intervention that the new agency is bringing, to say how do you enhance our business development support, but at the same time, as we are increasing the pie through the transformational fund that we're going to be launching, we are trying to say there's more money that must be made available, but taking into consideration the challenges that you're talking about, that must be responded to through the business development support.
Absolutely. And one last question before we let you go. What do you see as the biggest barriers now preventing local entrepreneurs from fully accessing local markets? You've already spoken about budgeting when it comes to marketing, which is a huge factor, but what are the other loopholes and how are you trying to address these?
The other loopholes is that South Africans don't have confidence in South African products. South Africans love brands.
Yeah.
So they want to go with the brands, which is why we urge South Africans to have confidence in their locally produced products, whether it's clothing, whether it's in the food industry. They must just show support, because if we support them, they're going to grow and become the big brands that they see today. The big brands that we so love, they started small, but they had people who had confidence in them and invested in them. So it's just to call out to South Africans to say, do support local products. And of course, as I said, our part will be to ensure that we assist them with marketing so that the people can know that there's a particular brand that is produced or manufactured in my area. And when that happens, if everyone or majority has confidence, these brands will grow to be bigger like the other brands that we find today.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for speaking to us this evening. We are going to leave it there for now. Minister of Small Business Development, Stella Ndabeni, is speaking to us about some of the opportunities that her department is creating for entrepreneurs in South Africa. We will return shortly with some of those entrepreneurs in a moment. Stay with us.